All right. Hey. Welcome to Blair and Barker.
Hey, Jeff.
For Tuesday. Hello, Kevin. How you doing?
Happy Tuesday.
Happy
It is
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah,
It
happy
is
Tuesday, everybody.
Yes, that's right. And we're here to talk about the team that has put the bull in bullpen. So watching last night's loss to the Mets, combination of Tommy Nance and defense, got me thinking. Going back to August, bad thing. Going back to August 28th, the Jays are 3-7. The bullpen has lost 4 of those games. You go back to the 28th of August, they lost 3-0 to Boston. Brendan Little gives up a 2-run home run to Tyler O'Neill. Sunday the 1st, 3-run home run to Royce Lewis, a 4-3 loss to the Twins. Tuesday the 3rd, the Phillies, 10-9 loss. Chad Green giving up a 3-run home run to Kyle Schwarber. Wednesday the 4th, Phillies, 4-2 loss. Remember that? JT Realmuto hit an insurance home run off of Ryan Burr. Sunday, 4-3 loss to Atlanta. Zach Pop, defense combination. Then last night, of course, a 3-2 loss to the Mets, Nance and defense. And the reason I mention it, because people who follow the Blue Jays, this is not a news flash that the bullpen has not been very good this year. But we talk about the 8th and 9th innings and how it's a different animal, especially the 9th inning is a different animal. Ooh. And it seems to me, Kevin, that the one thing all of those games kind of have in common, like, I don't think you can get by with the ball being in play in the 9th inning of games. Especially in extra innings, you can't. You need people who can come in and strike. You need people who can come in and strike.
Yeah, I think that's why these teams that are thinking that they have a legitimate chance of winning a World Series go out and pay $1 bazillion to get a dude who strikes everybody out. Further these stats that you were, because I knew you were going to do some digging, and I don't know what the heck you were just saying there, but I will say this is sort of whenever you look sort of at the 8th and 9th inning and watching that game last night when Nance is in and thinking about man alive, just like, and what you were talking about when, they were June 17th when Jimmy Garcia got hurt and they were 35-37 and they basically punted from the 17th on, right? Basically, when he came back, he was traded. It was a couple of days and then he was gone. They've had 13 different pitchers with a save opportunity. They are 35 of 55 in saves. Their pen has 23 losses. In the 8th inning, they are 25th in ERA at almost a whopping 5. In the 9th
and
inning,
we're talking September 10th.
In the 9th inning, they are 29th in ERA at a whopping almost 6. They have given up the 3rd most runs in the 8th inning at 86. They've given up the 2nd most runs in the 9th inning at 72. Yeah, that's not very good. It's just like the 13 different pitchers with a save opportunity, Jeff, is what you've been saying forever. It's like why you would at 35-37 basically punt on the team. I mean, you think Jordan Romano went down May 30th. They were 27-29. Jimmy Garcia went down June 17th. They were 35, like I just mentioned, and 37. You're basically decently in it. And if you look at the stats, the Twins could get in the 3rd wild card spot with about 85 wins. The Tigers are in 4th in that 4th wild card, somewhere in that spot, with 73 wins. So you're thinking that 3rd team is getting in with about 85 or 86 wins. If you just sort of somewhat piece the pen together. Now, we all understand what they don't do against fastballs. I mean, I had Boffo, our producer, look up what they were hitting with against fastballs.
Yeah, I did because Mark asked me to guess these numbers, and I couldn't guess it.
The only reason I did that is if you watch McGill last night, you watch Stanek, you watch Diaz. Basically, it was here.
Hit it.
See if you can hit it. And without Vladdy's numbers, because Vladdy's turned his season around by destroying and eating fastballs for breakfast. Without Vladdy's numbers versus the fastball, they've hit 241. That's 2nd worst in baseball. They've slugged 384. That's 3rd worst in baseball. So basically, without Vladdy, I think Vladdy's sitting somewhere like .331, slugging like mid-500s off the fastball. Like he's doing a lot of damage with that thing. He's sitting it all over the field. So without him in these stats,
but even
they're second worst and they're third worst. So basically they do nothing against the fastball.
Even if you put him in those stats, they're still pretty close.
They are, yeah. They boasted at about 10 points just by what he's done off the fastball, which is still lower 5
and the other thing,
in baseball.
The other thing that's scary about those stats is the guys who are generally doing some sort of damage on the fastball, they're the Buffalo dudes.
Yeah, they're younger. I mean, they that's sort of how you got to get to the big leagues, right? Is you got to show people you can hit velocity, you can hit the fastball over the field. You're telling Horowitz he needs to go down and figure out how to do damage to the pull side. You got to look heater to be able to do that. It's just amazing. Like, it's sort of every time you watch a Blue Jays game, it's the 8th and 9th inning, and they don't hit the heater. Yeah. Like, if you want to figure out how to fix it, you don't need a herd of khakis to go in a room and go, let's do this, that, and the other. No, I need an 8th inning guy that's a shutdown dude. I need a 9th inning guy. Like you brought up the great point about swing and miss. You got to have that. You got to pay for it, and you got to get 3 or 4 dudes in here who know how to hit a heater.
I mean, start there. Listen. I understand. I understand that an organization has to, at some point in the season, sit back, take a look at where it is, and say, okay, are we realistically a team that can contend for a playoff spot and do some damage in the postseason and then govern themselves accordingly? But what my sense is whenever the Jays sat down and did that, they made some flawed assumptions. And the biggest flawed assumption I think they made was just how easy it was going to be to make the playoffs this year.
Well, I think they sort of banked on Springer having a better year, Kirk turning the corner having a better year,
healthy
Dalton Varsho having a better year, Bo Bichette obviously playing 160 games.
But you know what?
Like, they banked on a bunch of things that obviously a lot of people that were outside looking in don't bank on.
Boston Red Sox didn't have Trevor Story. Their starting pitching has been up and down all year. They're playing a bunch of kids. They play in the AL East. They basically play the same schedule as the Blue Jays for the most part. What are they? They're 3 games out. Like, Boston's not a very good team. They're 3 games out of, I believe, 3, or maybe it's 3.5 now, out of a wild card spot. That's my whole point, is they are 3 games out. Thank you, Derek Brandeo, saying they're 3 games out of a wild card spot. And what frustrates me is I've seen this front office address the bullpen in season before. I keep talking about Adam Simber and Trevor Richards. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I just don't think it's that hard. I look at the Mets. I look at Ryan Stanek, who was acquired at the trade deadline. It's just,
I think it's hard to find 8th and 9th inning guys. I don't think it's hard to find 6th and 7th inning guys. I think that's a big difference, right? Is when you're trying to force the Littles, the Pearsons, the Richards. We saw Richard trying to pitch in the 9th inning. How'd that look? It doesn't work. Like, that's the point, right? It's, and when you run Nance's out there, that's what I said yesterday when the show was over, and I said it's just remarkable that a team that's got one of the highest payrolls in baseball is running Nance out there with 18 games left against the Mets at home in the 8th inning upper run. I mean, it's just, and then to further my point a little bit when I'm talking about the fastballs, top 5 teams in baseball, average-wise, hitting fastballs. Sinkers, cutters, four-seamers. Diamondbacks at number 1, Yankees, Phillies, Astros, Red Sox. Slugging versus the fastball. Yankees, Diamondbacks, Red Sox, Orioles, Phillies. Okay. Theme, all in the playoffs, all really good teams, all got a chance to win the World Series. I mean, it's not rocket science here. So, again, this gets back to my point about it's not a hard fix. I mean, it's not hard to know what you need. Whether you don't think now there's a big enough sample size that'll tell you that the dudes you got just can't hit a heater. Maybe that's it. Maybe you got to come to that realization, make up your mind quick, and go out and fix it. So, that's sort of what it is. When you're watching that last night, now obviously them dudes are making good pitches, and, one dude's 6'7", and the extension. And, I mean, we're in September. If you can't hit a heater by now, probably can't hit one, right? So That's sort of what it is. And then that Nance thing in the 8th inning. Again, there's some bad luck there, some bad defense, right? The swing and bunt down the third base line, plays not made, and then
Brian,
you walk a leadoff hitter in the 8th inning. Like
I have no idea what
trickery. You can't trick people in the 8th and 9th inning.
I have no idea what the hell Brian Servin was doing.
He's doing exactly what everybody else does in the 8th and 9th inning. He tries to trick the umpire. It's not. Again, I told you this after the game.
That may be the case, but
they have more chances to trick the guy standing behind them than they do with a runner on third base with less than 2 outs. Like they do. That's more of a worry. That's more of an emphasis put on stealing the strike than getting up on 2 legs and not having former catchers like Caleb Joseph yelling and screaming on TV shows after games. So, yeah.
The Jays did lose 3-2 to the Mets last night. They'll do it again tonight. 7:07 first pitch. David Peterson, 9-1 with a 2.75 ERA.
Left-handed.
Lefty.
That ain't good.
Light a candle, folks. He's on the mound against Chris Bassett. We'll be joined by John Harper, SNY, Sportsnet New York, at 4:30 to take a look at the Mets. We'll be joined by Bob Nightengale as well, and Dan Shulman will join us later on in the show. We've also got tickets to see the Jays and the Cardinals down at the Rogers.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Since we just broke down all the negative stuff, there was some positive things. Like Spencer hit Spencer Horwitz hit the double. That's his 5th extra base hit in the last 5 games. Over the last 9 games, he's hitting .424. Like, that's a big deal, right? He's putting the spotlight on himself. He's showing you that they make an adjustment. He can do it with some off-the-field things, make some tweaks, figure out how to stay back, stay inside the baseball, those kind of things. It was the Ernie Clement with the 2 hits, the pinch hit. He's hitting .417 as a pinch hitter with an OPS of over 1,200. That's a big deal because next year, hopefully, they bring in better players. He's not starting, but he can come off the bench with that flat swing. He can do things, big part of the field. He can backspin things. He can get that big-time hit. So that OPS and that average against when you're coming off the bench, it just goes to show you, right? He's got that little simplified swing. It's not overthinking it. You go up, you look heater, you get athletic, you give yourself a good chance to get a hit, and that's his 27th multi-hit game, which is a pretty big deal too. So there was some positives last night. It's just, I think when you watch, it's sort of like Groundhog Day. It's the 8th and 9th inning. It's the lack of being able to, I don't even want to say make an adjustment in game against the fastball. I just don't know if they can consistently hit it. Maybe that's what it is. And I have a tough time saying that because can't's a pretty strong word. But it's a pretty big sample size, Jeff, of us seeing that they have trouble. I mean, velocity, should that sneak up on anybody? I mean, everybody sees velocity now. I mean, it's rare that you see a lefty like this dude tonight for the Mets who throw 91, 92. Most of the time, it's 97, 98. And that part of it, I think, if you're a Jays fan, you got to be frustrated with because they were trying to sell at the beginning of the year. You got a decent chance of running through this thing. And then you look at the standings, and a team's probably going to get in with 85 wins. That's not going to happen every year.
No, that's that's really true. And if it is the Boston Red Sox and the AL East sends 3 teams to the postseason and one of them's got 85 wins, like that's a missed opportunity for this organization. That is a missed opportunity.
Well, the Red Sox sort of a shot in the dark, right? I think they got 72 or 73 wins. Like they'd have to do a ton in the next 18 games, right? But you're looking at the Twinkies. I mean, Twinkies got 82 wins. I mean, they could get in with, they got 78 wins. They could get in with 85, 86 wins because of who's behind them and what they don't do well. To your point that you've been making for a long time, I just don't know I don't understand the punting part of it when it comes to the pen. Right? It's when you look it up and that June 17th sort of a big day when it's they're 35 and 37.
I will say
it's not like they're 10 under.
I will say this. I hope I'm at the point now where I hope they decided to punt in the season because I hope that they didn't look at that situation, look at the Brendan Littles of the world and all these guys and go, yep, we got an answer right here. I'm hoping they decided to punt as opposed to believing that what they were doing was actually going to.
What's your heart tell you about that? Because I'm thinking they think that they got enough. Like they believe in Pearson. They believe in Trevor Richards. Like I asked around, and I was saying, well, what now? And they said Trevor Richards is going to have to be the guy. That sound like they were worried, or they believe in Trevor Richards? It's just a tough sales, all. That's all I'm saying. And hopefully having years like this with the payroll that they got, seeing what they went through last night, who they threw against a team trying to make the playoffs with a lead. Yeah. I mean, it's just a tough look. That's all. I mean, this has nothing to do with Nance. I was a guy like Nance, fighting and clawing, trying to stay in the show. I mean, he's got a good curveball. He should never be throwing in no 8th inning against the playoff team at home.
Yeah, and I still
with the payroll that you got.
I still didn't like that 3-2 curve to watch.
That's his best pitch. I mean, they're hitting like a little over 100 off that thing. He throws that thing for a strike out, but it was non-competitive. Yeah. Winkle would have been out. I mean, that's just, again, you can't pitch a dude in the 8th inning in a big spot and say, fair. Don't throw your best pitch.
That's fair.
That's just, it's not going to work that way. So
maybe you don't want a guy in the 8th inning whose best pitch is a curve.
Yeah, well, most guys in the 8th inning don't throw 92, 93, 94. Not on good teams, anyway. Saw Stanek coming in. I mean, watch your lips. Like, don't dig in. That hurts. It's just, you see the difference. And Diaz hasn't had a good year, but it's 97 on the corner. Like, it's a weird, crazy arm slot. He's short arming it, and it's spinning, and it's hard to tell the difference. And, I mean, it makes it hard for you to pull balls, right? I mean, you have to go the other way, and it's just,
yeah.
You can't, if you're ownership and even if you're management, you can't be sitting up there going, boy, I'm happy about this. You just can't be. Like, you just, the way a decent pitcher can consistently work through a lineup other than one guy. I mean, there may be the Horowitzes of the world and maybe Will Wagner's of the world, which I never thought I'd be saying. That's too bad. Like, they're too easy to get out with one pitch. So I think it's right in front of them. I've been saying that for a while. Nobody believes me.
Well, no.
It's just you know what I think it is? Most people don't believe that this front office can actually go out and fix it. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's absolutely right.
I'm going to believe. I'm going to try and have faith. Because I'm sure if I see it, I think they see it. They can't not see it.
Listen, I have faith because I know that ownership will spend money. And money covers a lot of weaknesses. Doesn't cover all of them.
It's where you spend it.
Money can't necessarily cover a bad farm system or lousy player development. But and as long as that's the case, I think that there is a chance that they can figure it out. But yeah, it's.
Well, they're going to have to get creative. I know you love that word, but they're going to have to.
Your point, though, is well made. It's not as if we discovered a week ago that this team lacks heft in the middle of the order. I mean, we've known that for 3 years. This will be the third season.
I don't remember the first time that I said they don't have a cleanup hitter, but it's been at least 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least 2 years. I've been first show. I was standing in spring training
2 years ago. Remember
Brandon
to get out of the
wind, so people didn't get chapped on social media because they couldn't hear me. And I think the first thing out of my mouth was they still don't have a cleanup hitter. Like, it's like,
well, I did. I looked at it earlier this year. You just ran through the number of pitchers who've pitched in the
13 different ones.
Check the number of cleanup hitters this team's had this year.
It's like 13 or 14.
There's a lot. So you're an organization that hasn't had an established guy in the ninth inning and hasn't had an established cleanup hitter. I mean,
your cleanup hitter don't have to be actually hitting in the 4 spot. I mean, he can be sprinkled around.
Right, but the point is, there's sprinkling around, and then there's having 13 different guys in the 4th spot. I mean, if you've got 3 guys and you've got one guy who's hitting 3rd and 5th, okay, but there's sprinkling, and then there's a freaking
Yeah, I mean, I know.
Deluge.
It's like that batting average. It's, nobody cares about batting average until you're 20, till you're second to last and third to last. Like, then you start caring. It's amazing how that works.
Speaking of positives, now this is.
Give me one because I need it.
I understand that this isn't probably in their to-do list, but I'm going to be. I would like Ryan Yarbrough on my team next year, please.
He's like eighth in line to what you need to think about.
That's fine. I want him on my team. He
could be, what might itsnay that is what they do with Yariel. Like that might be the thing, right?
Who'd you rather have?
Well, who am I paying? Like I'm already paying one guy. I'm going to use him, and that's Rodriguez, right? And if I don't feel like he can start, then he's going to be the long guy out of the pen. He's going to have to try and figure out how to do that.
I guess part of the thing too is I'm just so used to Ryan Yarbrough sticking it to the Blue
I mean,
Jays
it's very hard to do what he did, right? I mean, he went to 10 days between his first outing, and then he went 8 days before yesterday. And other than Phil through that first inning or first couple of batters, I mean, he's pretty decent, right? I mean, he located in, he hit a couple of batters, but who cares? Like
Kevin hit his.
He's 6'6". He had that 3/4 arm, so I'm with you. But it's about what it costs.
His whip this year is 1.06.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
And sometimes
I got to tell you what, I got more faith. Other than their first four starting pitchers, I got more faith in him than anybody else in the team.
In the pen, you do.
It's kind of fun.
In the pen,
it's kind of fun watching him come into the game.
I just like the dude's been around forever. You don't have to worry about when you pitch him. You don't have to worry about how many days he stood down there. He's going to come in. He's going to look like he pitched 4 or 5 days in a row. Like it was
fun watching him and Lindor last night was.
Yeah. He makes good hitters look silly just because of where he releases the ball from and the change in the speeds.
And I know I'm reaching for positives here, but I just feel.
I mean, they had one hit. They had one hit till the 7th inning.
Well, Ben Shulman, terrific call last night. Ben made the point. I wrote it down, and I don't know. At one point, there were more hit batters than hits in the game, right?
Yeah.
There were like 5 hit batters and 3 hits or something like that. I mean, it was a weird game. That's the type of game. If you are the Mets, you go back in the clubhouse and you go, and you're now a game up in the in that race for that last wild card spot. You're going back in and going, holy hell, if we can win that tire fight.
Yeah, I think if you're the Braves watching that,
you're thinking,
man alive. Seriously, that's who you're running out there in the 8th inning?
Yeah.
You know exactly what they're thinking. Because if I was playing for the Braves, that'd be what I'd think. You kidding me?
Although I think they did run. In fairness to the Jays, they did run Tommy Nance out against the Braves, too, did they not? I mean, they're equal opportunity deployers here.
I had to go back and look at that. Up a run in the 8th inning at home against the playoff team. Again, I hate to say that about Tommy because Tommy's working his tail off, and he's had a good 4 or 5 outings in a row.
He'll probably.
But man,
he's had a good September. He's had a good September, and he's going to be in camp next year with a shot at getting the bullpen. I mean, they've got to bring guys in. The idea that all these guys they have this year are just going to be
6th and 7th, Jeff, and they're playing their pocket guys. They're not like no-brainer guys that you throw in the 8th inning. I know there's 2 righties and lefty. I think that's what he brought him in against, and then they threw a pinch hitter and he walked him. I get it, but it's like 8th inning. It's just frustrating. That's all because the expectations coming into the season, and we get it. Who they don't have But, man, and then you just start digging into that Jimmy Garcia thing. And I don't know why, but because you brought it up and I said, okay, now I need to go look and see what their record was. June 17th, they were 35-37. And then you look at what the record for the Twinkies is and what the number might be at the end of the season. It is like, what if you just solidified that and not had 13 different pitchers in a save opportunity?
If you really want to get frustrated.
And the 23 losses.
If you really want to get frustrated, look at the number of days this season that John Schneider was forced to manage a game without both Jordan Romano and Jimmy Garcia.
Yeah.
If you want to get frustrated, look at that. the number of games.
Then you look at the Braves, who've lost basically everybody that matters, that plays every day. A lot of them anyway. And they're above 500, and they're having a chance. It's a little mind-boggling.
Don't get us started about the Milwaukee Brewers.
You know, sometimes the quality of that roster is.
Yes, indeed. The second of this 3-game series goes tonight at 7:07. I'm thinking tomorrow's a 3:07 first pitch. We'll be on with Blue Jays talk.
Nice.
Following
winning edition.
Winning
Have faith.
Edition. Tomorrow.
Maybe not tonight. Tomorrow.
Well, no, tomorrow. It's
this guy's 9-1. Tomorrow. Is it tomorrow's Bowden Friends?
Pitching wins don't matter. You know that.
And the roof's open tonight, too. So Bassett will be flipping that thing, boy, like he has never flipped it before.
Yeah, there was talk in the yesterday.
It's raining. That roof's going to be closed.
One of the reasons they didn't.
Coach.
Chris Bassett, of course, complained about the lot pitching when the roof was closed the last time.
I would never say that. How dare I? But you looked at me, I looked at you, and we both when we were there sort of peeked out to see if the roof was open or not.
Anyhow. Hey, you know what? Listen, I'm going to tell you this. With everything that Bassett and Gossman and Barrios have gone through the last 2 years,
whatever floats your boat, man. You do what you want.
If they want to pitch with the roof half open,
absolutely,
I'm okay with that.
Absolutely, he's earned it.
He has. We'll take a break and come back with John Harper. Take a deeper dive into the Mets. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan at Sportsnet. All right. Well, we are 2.5 hours away from first pitch.
Nice.
At the Rogers Center. The Jays and the New York Mets.
I wonder if Chris will be on the third base side of the rubber. I don't know if it went so well in his last outing.
He did kind of move to the middle.
Around. He was trying to tinker around with that. So
I mean, who the hell knows?
Yeah. I mean, whatever's working, kitchen sink.
Hell, he might end up with him. He could end up pitching from second base.
I hope it's all working because it's fun when it's working and he's still in the kitchen sink and just see hitters' faces.
Well, and let's face it. The more success the Jays starting rotation has, the longer they stay in the game, the fewer relievers we have to see, which is a good thing.
Let me ask you real quick. Opening day starter for the Toronto Blue Jays next year is?
Jose Barrios. Don't agree? I mean, they'll overthink it.
No, I don't think so. I don't think about
Francis,
that.
But no.
It'll be one of the three.
I think it'll be Jose Barrios.
And I don't think it'll be Bassett. No. So it'll be one of the two.
I'll ask you this. Odds that one of those three is traded this offseason.
I think they have enough to trade what they got from trades this year that they won't have to trade one of the three. And they don't have enough depth anyway, I don't think, to fill in the blank.
Yeah. Well, there is that as well, based on what we've seen from Yariel Rodriguez. The Mets have gotten hot at the right time, to say the least. They rallied past the Blue Jays last night for their 10th win in 11 games. They have pulled ahead of the Atlanta Braves in the race for the final wild card spot. And hands up those of you who thought that you did not have the Mets ahead of them at any point in the season. Put your hand down, Barker. John Harper of Sportsnet New York joins us on Blair and Barker. John, good to talk to you as always, my friend. Look, Kevin and I were just talking about this. Look, am I surprised that the Mets are in the playoff spot at the start of the year? I mean, they were one of the teams I could have seen get in. I don't know if I expected them to jump ahead of the Braves at some point. How much of this is what the Mets are doing, and how much of this do you think is what the Braves aren't doing?
How you guys doing? I have to say the Mets have really played well. I mean, they're 25 games over 500 since the early June, so it's not like they just got hot all of a sudden. But that they did go on this recent 9-game winning streak, and now 10 out of 11, thanks to the Blue Jays helping them out with the pass ball, the wild pitch, and everything else that happened in that 8th inning last night, or 9th inning, whatever it was. But they, the Braves have fallen off a little bit. But, the Mets are 14 games over 500 for the season, so that's better than I projected, that's for sure. I mean, I thought they'd have a chance to be maybe mid 80s or so, but it looks like they're going to be better than that. And they've been carried by really strong starting pitching. Got Shulman, since he dropped his arm down, he literally tried to channel Chris Sale, and he's doing that. He's been good. Severino's been good. David Peterson's been good. So pitching's been real good. The bullpen's been solid, and the offense has been up and down. Lindor's had a great year. So they are playing better than expected. But somehow or another, I don't think Mets fans believe it yet, because the Braves always find a way to get the best of them one way or the other, it seems like.
Yeah, I'm looking at their rotation. And this, I admit, I probably don't pay as much attention to the National League as I should have. But, I mean, these last 11 games where they've gone 10-1, their starters have 72 strikeouts, 20 walks, and a 1.87 ERA. I find that the bullpen's been good. That doesn't surprise me that bit. But the starters number just blows me away.
Yeah, and even last night, McGill. I mean, this guy, he's been up and down. He's shown at times to have really good stuff, which you saw last night, but usually has trouble commanding it and then makes mistake pitches. But last night, he was dominant for 6 innings. I thought he actually probably could have gone a little more. But it has been, David Stearns did a nice job of finding these guys basically 1-year contracts for Severino, for Manaea, and Peterson's still under control for another year or two. They picked up Blackburn at the trade deadline, who had a solid few starts and got hurt. And then Quintana's been up and down a little bit, but the rotation, it's been much better overall than expected, especially early on in the year. They weren't getting much length out of their starters, and the bullpen was really overstrained, and you saw the result of it. But lately, the starters have been going 7 innings into the game, which, as these days is probably like a complete game. And so that's taken a big load off the pen, and you've seen as a result, they've gotten much better results out of the pen as well.
John, you mentioned Lindor. It can't be the easiest thing in New York to come off a bad year, especially after you just gotten paid $1 bazillion and come back and have the year that he's had. Can you point the finger at one certain thing that's the reason why he's having the year he's having?
Well, he actually, the bad year was really the first year here, which was actually, this is his 4th year. He got, the fans are booing him. He was really sensitive to the booing. He got involved in that. I don't know if you guys remember the thumbs down thing when Javier Baez came over and the fan, toward the fans reacted to him. So there was an uneasiness with that whole relationship. I think he wanted to be loved, and it didn't happen for a couple of years. But last year he actually put up 30-30 numbers. But the problem was he got off to a really slow start. By the time he got hot, they were out of it. So the numbers seemed a little empty. This year, again, he got off to a slow start. But the team, they weren't out of it by the time he got going. And they really, the key, it seems like the key anyway, was Mendoza, the manager, moved him to the leadoff spot from number 3 in the lineup to the leadoff spot where he used to hit in Cleveland. And it seemed like it just freed him up just to be who he is and not try to be this run producer who has to be the guy every day. And since then, his numbers have been great. And he's just, he's a traditionally second half guy, and he has carried it over to the second half, put up really good numbers, and the fans have come around. They started chanting MVP at the games. They're even singing. They sing his. He's got the walk-up song is the old Temptations "My Girl" song, which he says is a tribute to his daughters, and the crowd has started singing that song as he comes to the plate. So it's kind of a 180 in terms of the way the fans have embraced him now, and I think he responds to that. I think he plays best when he's relaxed, when he's confident. He's not over swinging. He's taking the ball as a left-handed hitter, especially when he's taking the ball the other way, letting the ball get deep and all all the stuff we always talk about. He's a really, really good hitter, and he's doing that now. He's just relaxed and playing to his ability. He's got great ability. He had a lot of trouble living up to the contract early, but he's no question he's doing that now.
John, is Diaz back in the 9th inning? Is he predictable again?
It's been up and down year for sure. A lot of problems early in the year. He missed all last year with that knee injury suffered in the WBC. He looked good early in the year, but then he ran into a bunch of blown saves. Then he had a little issue with his arm. He had that suspension from the sticky stuff suspension. Came back from that, and he about 2 or 3 weeks ago, he blew 2 saves, one in San Diego, one in Arizona, gave up home runs. But since then, he's been really good. He's got velocity all of a sudden now in the last few outings has been up back to 100 again, triple digits, which he wasn't at early in the year. So there's a feeling that maybe it really did take this long to come back from the knee injury, and that he is the guy again. He has looked really good lately, but you got to see him do it. I got to see him do it through these last few weeks to really believe it, because it's been that kind of year for him.
Yep. And John, that's why we saw Ryan Stanek last night, and that's one of the reasons I thought that was low key. That was a very smart move around the trade deadline. I mean, what it cost them a minor league outfielder. And, I mean, he's allowed 1 earned run in his last 7 2/3 innings. I mean, this is a guy who's been there. We saw him last night, 99. Did he hit 100 in one of his pitches? I don't know if he hit 100,
99.
But 99.
Hard enough.
Yeah, hard enough.
Yeah.
And he's Ryan Stanek. He looks like he wants to kill you, basically, when he's on the mound, too.
Yeah, 99, and then he threw that nasty splitter. So, I think the Mariners wanted out from under his salary. He wasn't great for them. He came over here. He actually had a couple bad outings to start out with the Mets, and he wasn't in the high leverage mix there for a while. But lately now, he looks like that guy who he was in Houston for a couple of years. And Stearns got him. He got Phil Maton at the deadline as well. I think the Rays again, that would have to do with his salary, and he's been really good for them. So Stearns got Jesse Winker too, who's won some games with his bat for them. So you got to give Stearns some high marks for what he did at the deadline and what he's done overall in terms of, they weren't that they went into last off season after trading Scherzer and Verlander, making it clear they weren't going to spend at the top of the market unless they could have got Yamamoto. He was the one guy because he was so young. They didn't get him, but they weren't going to spend at the top of the market. It's kind of almost they called it a reset type of year. It's turned out to be much more than that, because Stearns really did do a nice job in getting these one-year deals.
John, we had John Gibbons on a couple of days ago, and I asked him about Pete Alonso, and he said Pete was trying too hard. Obviously, he's trying to get paid. He's trying to, help the Mets go to the playoffs, those kind of things. How do you I don't know. I've never met Petey, but it just seems to me like he's a trier. Like he really wants to carry the load. He's a big dude. Like, he's hard to not see. Like, when you look at the Mets, you sort of think of him. How do you, if you're the organization, get him the next 18 games, and hopefully if you're a Mets fan, to stop trying? Like, just go out there and be himself.
Yeah, you mean the guy who was doing deadlifts in between the home run derby sets?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy.
That's the guy. Try hard is right, But first, let me say, I'm sure I would think you guys are fans of Gibby, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's nobody better than Gibby. I mean, it's great to have him in New York again. I get to talk to him when I go to the ballpark. And I think he's really helped Mendoza, by the way, just as, being a veteran presence around. Mm-hmm. But everybody, players love the guy. He's such a good guy. But anyway, to get to your point, I think you're right on there. Alonso, that is the feeling that he's tried way too hard, put way too much pressure on himself. He switched agents, went to Boris. So at that point, everybody knew he wanted every last dollar. And the Mets were more than willing to extend him like a year ago, as they did with McNeil. But he, the word was he wanted Judge money, and he's not Aaron Judge. No. And so they couldn't get together on a contract, and so he's playing it out. Unlike Judge, though, he's not producing, and I really do think that is his mentality. He's such a guy. He wants to be the guy so badly. A little bit like Lindor when he first came over here. He's trying way too hard. His numbers overall aren't terrible, but he's been really bad in clutch situations. His numbers for runners scoring position are bad, all that stuff. All that stuff you think about when you think a guy is trying too hard. And, every year there's always been a streak where he's gotten hot and carried the team for at least a couple of weeks. He hasn't done that yet. I think the Mets are still hoping it happens over these last few weeks, but I'm not sure it's going to at this point. I think he's just so much in his head. It's hard to figure it out at this point.
Yeah, Jeff McNeil is going to be a loss for this team. Now, he hasn't had the year a lot of people expected from him, but I'm wondering, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but at one point, wasn't there concern about he had a torn ligament in his elbow, and that there was no surgery, and it almost seems like I don't know, was that a bad decision maybe in hindsight now?
As far as extending him?
Yeah. No, just the UCL, not getting that surgery done.
Oh, there really hasn't been any talk about that. That was last year, and it seemed to heal. And nobody thought that was the issue the first half of the year. He just it was weird. He just wasn't. He didn't look like the guy he had been, the high contact guy who had really been made a habit of just finding holes. A lot of people thought it had to do with the shift because he was able to go the other way and find holes that way. When they banned the shift, he wasn't the same guy. But then mid-season this year, he had a terrible first half. Mid-season this year, he decided just at one point he was just going to try and hit the ball hard, stop worrying about guiding it and finding holes, all that. And all of a sudden, he did get hot around the All-Star break, hit some home runs. And the second half, before he got the wrist broken the other day, he had a nine something OPS. So he's been a big part of it, what they're doing. So I think they are going to miss him because he was one of the best second half hitters. Although I got to say, man, Jose Iglesias, he's been quite a revelation. I can't believe this guy didn't play in the big leagues last year. I mean, just for his glove alone, he's got the best hands of anybody I've seen since maybe. What the shortstop for the Cleveland? I'm blanking on his name now.
Omar Vizquel.
All those years ago, Vizquel. Yeah, I mean, this guy makes every play, and he makes it look so easy with those hands. And he's been a good hitter for the Mets as well. He's hitting for like 500 runners in scoring position or something crazy. So, and he's got this OMG thing became a vibe for the Mets that they kind of rallied around with his song and everything else. So, I think he'll be fine at second base, but I think they will miss McNeil's bat, and that is the one question about this team. They have been up and down offensively all year. Alvarez has been a disappointment. He hasn't followed through on his rookie year. So the kid Vientos has been a revelation as well. But they do have some holes in that lineup. I think that's going to be the biggest test going down the stretch here.
John, good stuff,
Great
my
stuff.
friend. Good to talk to you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John.
Okay, guys. Great talking to you.
Take care. That's John Harper of Sportsnet New York, longtime baseball writer. Covered both the Mets and the Yankees. It's kind of funny, hearing John talk about the Mets, and the fans, like they sing along to the Lindor song.
Yeah,
it's hard to explain to people unless you've been to a game where the Mets are the home team or the Yankees are the home team. Mm-hmm. It is a different vibe between the two. Now,
in what way? More vocal, more fun?
More fun. I
Who's
mean,
more fun?
It's weird. The Met crowds, I think there's more of an up and down thing to the Mets. And a lot of that has to do with the history of the team.
Yeah.
Like I used to love going to games at Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
Covering it there. I mean, it was electric. Yankee Stadium was the cathedral. Shea Stadium was just goofy. Mm-hmm. And the crowds, I think the crowds are more intense. The Mets crowds are more intense, more likely to turn on you, more likely to unturn on you than Yankees crowds are.
Yeah,
I guess a lot of that is because of
the Yankees win all the time. I mean, it's right. Sort of like if you're a fan of the Yankees, you're showing up. Yeah. It's only a matter of time before we win, and we're gonna, at least be in it.
But I mean,
the Mets, it's like all over the place. So that's why they turning quick, right?
Covering the postseason, a couple of postseasons when the Mets were in the playoffs at Shea Stadium, the auxiliary press box, and the press boxes in a lot of the ballparks were pretty small back in the day. So because there were so many, this is when newspapers were still newspapers, and almost every paper in the country would send somebody to cover the playoff series. So they had what they called auxiliary press boxes. And usually you were in the stands in the left field corner. I mean, basically you were in the seats that were the horrible, horrible seats.
Yeah.
Shea Stadium auxiliary press box, we were in a suite in the left field corner. That was when the Braves had Chipper Jones and John Rocker. Remember, John Rocker said a lot of unkind things about Mets fans?
Yep.
I have never. I've sat in Boston Gardens, which was an open press box, on St. Patrick's Day, and had beer dumped on me and all that.
Did you deserve it?
No, it's just they did that because it's Boston. They're largely ignorant, and that's kind of the way they roll. Boston and St. Patrick's Day, you do not want to be there. Anyhow, it's, how I feel about Boston.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the point is, I've never been amongst a group of fans that were as all around rowdy as Mets fans.
Yeah, they're hungry
it is
for a winner.
It is a different crowd.
Yeah.
There's and the Mets have always had a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
There's always been kind of that train wreck potential with every Mets team.
Now that John said that the polar bear hasn't carried the team for a while, all year, now that's something I'm going to be looking for, is maybe he'll get hot for
the postseason.
That's all he did. Well, like the last.
Oh, the last.
Say the last 13 games of the season, he's red smoking hot. They pull away from the Braves. He carries that into the playoffs. You know as well as him. It's sort of maybe like the Diamondbacks, right? Yeah. They got decent enough starting pitching. Like Manaya's been really good. Like you could match up against some teams, right? It's getting hot at the right time. It's just one or two guys. Lindor, Polar Bear, hot all at the same time. The pitching, the back end of the bullpen with Diaz getting better. Like
I just don't know.
I'm not saying they could make a legitimate serious run at it, but they could be a threat and a worry to some teams.
Yeah, I'm looking at the teams that will probably be in the playoffs right now from the National League. They're not. I can't think they'd scare the Phillies. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. The Padres are awfully good. Diamondbacks.
You could have said that about the Diamondbacks last year too. Couldn't you say that?
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. And I also there is also
you sort of got that nothing to lose mentality.
Well, there's also that whole aspect of having to be hot at the right time of the season to get in the playoffs. It's a lot easier to carry that over into the first round, as opposed to a team like Milwaukee that really, they're playing for home field, whatever. Yeah. They know they're going to be in the playoffs. Yeah, there's a big difference, and that's one of the reasons that wild card teams generally do well, because you know what? Yeah, generally you don't back into a wild card spot. You got to be playing pretty good baseball to get a wild.
Well, yeah, they've been playing playoff baseball for about a month now.
Exactly.
Against the Braves.
And I think it's easier for teams. Yeah. And people have said that. I've talked to players on teams like that. It's easier to just, we've been playing big games for 17 days. Okay, now we got another big game. That's a lot easier than, I
think you can tell with polar bears at bats, especially looking last night in run producing situations, but most of them dudes this time of the year don't jam themselves. Like you can tell his stride foot's a little longer, sort of look like Vladdy beginning of the season. Like you're trying too hard, you want to get out there and get everything, your hands follow. You're right, it's hard to get barrel the ball, and you get jammed or you jam yourself on pitches you should quite frankly be hitting to the moon. Like last night against the lefty. Yarborough, he should have hit a couple of them to the moon, and he's jamming himself. So
he also
maybe he gets hot.
Well, he also wouldn't be the first guy to be squeezing the bat a little tight into his walk ear.
Yeah, he's still got 30 big ones.
Yeah, I know. But you got Scott Boras as an agent for a reason, and not because you necessarily are automatically going to re-sign.
If you're to the Jays, you make a run at him? Like a legit run.
Anybody who can help, anybody who can beef up the middle of my order.
I like what John said. He can carry your team for 2 weeks at a time. Anybody with the Blue Jays can do that other than Vladdy? And I'm not even sure Vladdy can do it by himself. No. Vladdy needs help.
Look, I'm not picky. That middle of the lineup there has to be two other names in it.
Well,
one of them has to be an impactful
Can't be Kevin Barker.
Can't be Kevin Barker.
It can't be. Can't be the guy that needs a walker.
Although I quite frankly am surprised that you haven't been a cleanup hit, because it seems like everybody in Toronto has been a cleanup hitter.
Well, they haven't called. This year. We've said some things. Maybe that's why they haven't called. How'd you say it?
I fully expect to see Mitch Marner cleaning up for them.
You think so?
At some point. So, yeah. I'll make a call on anybody who can hit. I make a call on anybody
bids that can hit cost money. Lots of money.
Bob Nightengale of USA Today will join us. We're going to talk about we're going to grade the trade deadline a little bit and take a look at the West, the National League West. It's Blair and Barker on Sports. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker. A little bit of news here from our friend Pat Malacaro in Buffalo, who the Bisons. The expectation is for Bo Bichette to play between 3 to 5 innings tonight at shortstop and be with the Bisons most of the week against Gwinnett. What do they play, 5-game series?
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah, they play 5 or 6 game series. I'm like,
short in minor leagues
in Gwinnett against the Braves minor league affiliates. So We had thought that perhaps Bo might be up here in time for the series against the Cardinals this weekend. You kind of get the sense that they're looking more towards
Texas
next week
maybe.
in Texas.
Yeah. I root for him. I want to see him. Like, it's time. Like, it's done a lot of talking about Bo, right? Around Bo.
Yeah.
I want to see Bo up here hitting a 2-hole, maybe leading off, hitting a heater.
It is. Thank
Playing
you,
a little
Mark
shortstop.
Buffett. It's a 6-game. It's a 6-game series against Gwinnett. They didn't do that.
Not a chance. It was 3 games when I played. That's weird,
What
right?
the hell would you do with like 6 games, 6 days in a row in Rochester?
That's a tremendous question.
I mean, that's a lot of Jimmy Johns.
Shoot yourself.
That's a lot of Jimmy.
You ever been there?
Rochester?
Yeah, it's the worst stadium ever, too. The sun like pokes through like cracks in the like the stadium because the sun sets basically right above like above the third base dugout, and you're playing first, and it gets in your way, and it is the worst place ever.
I've been to Rochester a couple. I actually like the city. I've never
You
been
can't
to
walk out in the dark there either. Man, better do it in herds. I'm pretty, Jeff. I mean, it's like, buddy, you better ass to ear, boy. Get to that hotel as fast as you can.
It's
true.
I don't really know. I don't really have an answer for that.
Well, it's dark.
Time
Dangerous.
7:07 is
How's
the
that?
7:07 is the first pitch tonight as the Mets take on the Blue Jays. It'll be David Peterson on the mound for the Mets and Chris Bassett for the Blue Jays. Roof open, I believe.
Nice. Well, it's nice.
It is.
Yeah.
Time now for our MLB Insider, brought to you by Miller Lite. Bob Nightengale of USA Today joins us. Hello, Bob.
How you guys doing?
We're doing well, you know. I mean, it's
September.
It's September.
17 games left.
You know, I remember, I mean, this was what it was like before I started, you know, spending time around the Blue Jays. I'm used to teams basically playing out the stretch and trying to make chicken salad out of know what. Hey, obviously with the Braves and Mets in focus right now in Toronto, the Jays just played the Braves, and obviously they played the Mets, and they threw one away last night. Who do you see getting in between these two teams, the Braves or Mets? You know what? The Mets have won 10 of their last 11. The Braves, you know, they're in a world of, I mean, they've been in a world of hurt all year. And I don't know, I kind of get the sense this might be one of those kind of funky Mets years, you know?
Yeah, when I saw the Mets a few weeks ago, I really thought they were dead.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, there's no chance. They got a really tough schedule. They still got 7 left against Philly, I think 3 in Atlanta. But, you know, with Atlanta, all of a sudden they can't score runs and, you know, get shut out by the Cincinnati Reds. I think it was the first time they've been a 1-0 shutout at home since like 2017, I read.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the offense is starting to worry me. It's like, God, you hate to waste all that great pitching, particularly by Chris Sale. I still think Atlanta gets in, the Mets don't. Just Atlanta knows how to win down the stretch. The Mets don't. So we'll see. But, yeah, the Mets are playing on their mind right now.
Bob, who do you think would be the better team in the playoffs, the Padres or the Diamondbacks, once you get to the playoffs?
I think Diamondbacks. Yeah, I was having a conversation last week with Dave Roberts of the Dodgers, and I said, what team, you know, don't you want to play? He goes, I want no part of the Diamondbacks. He goes, they scared the hell out of me. Just, you know, with a deep lineup, you know, leading the major leagues in runs scored, deep team. Padres had a great bullpen. You wonder about the rotation of the Padres. I mean, Musgrove really got hit around the other day. Darvish, you don't know. Kind of a streaky offense. So I think the Diamondbacks are a more dangerous team. And it's funny because they'll probably play, you know, they finish the season against each other. Good chance that Padres just stay in town because they could be playing the first round matchup against each other too.
Cool.
Yeah, it seems to me that the Diamondbacks, you know, obviously they were there last year, but do you think they're even deeper this year?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, they got even Joe Montgomery's pitching on the bullpen now. So they got 6 starters. Nelson's going nuts for them. But offensively, I mean, they were without Marte, without Christian Walker, without Marino, the catcher from Toronto, and he's still out, and they kept winning. There was no letdown whatsoever. So no, they're a better team than the one that went to the World Series a year ago.
Bob, who do you think the best team in the National League is today?
I'd probably go Philadelphia. That Dodger rotation's a mess.
Yeah,
I could see the Dodgers going out first round once again. I mean, I don't think Kershaw's coming back. The only guy that's been starting, Stone, went down. Bueller got hammered again last night. They really need Yamamoto to come back and be the guy they had hoped, along with Tyler Glasnow. But Glasnow still hasn't, pitched in over a month.
Speaking of starting pitching, the Houston Astros, it looks like they may have a decision with Justin Verlander. We had Jensen Lewis on yesterday, and he was talking about everything that would go into putting that roster together. Now, I understand a lot of it has to do with opponent and all that, but Kevin asked me this off air. I still find it hard to envision the Astros not having Justin Verlander on their postseason roster, but I mean, they may be forced into that decision.
They may, what they could do with Verlander and say, you know what, because it looks like Houston's going to have to play that first round,
right?
Best of three. So they could tell Verlander, hey, you're not with us first round, but you'd be on the roster second round. And the Dodgers kind of have the same type of thing, with Kershaw. If he comes back and, you don't know what's going to happen from start to start with his toe and shoulder and everything else, is what do you do with him? That's a real tough emotional thing to leave a guy like that off the roster as well.
Bob, who with Ohtani being probably a 50-50 guy at the end of the season, there's no chance he's not the MVP, is he?
No chance. Yeah, He's got it.
100%.
100%. Yeah, I think it'll be, at least, I don't know. There's only 30 votes, so that's at least 26-4, if not 27-3, 28-2, something like that. I don't think it'll be unanimous, particularly with the New York guys probably voting Lindor. But yeah, it'll be a runaway. Same with Judge and Bobby Witt.
It's like the old days, man, where there used to be bias. You have to have fist fights in the press box and that. It's outstanding. I love it. West Coast bias, New York bias.
I know. No, everybody's blaming the East Coast bias. Now people blame the West Coast bias. Exactly.
I always remember when.
I'll tell you what. I mean, if Mookie Betts was still playing and wasn't hurt for all that time, I mean, it probably was going to be Mookie Betts. I still think he means more to that team than Ohtani does. Yeah. But Ohtani's numbers are ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember the year that Pedro won the National League Cy Young Award with Montreal, and called me over like early. It was like July, and we started talking, and he was interested in the Cy Young voting. He said to me, "Okay, what I want you to do, I want you to introduce me to the West Coast guys." when they come into town, I want you to introduce me to the West Coast guys. He was aware. That was kind of a thing back. That was different back then, right? Because you didn't have the MLB network. I mean, gosh, you could go a whole year without seeing the San Diego Padres if you were an East Coast writer, and that was always kind of fun. The fun aspect of the voting.
You remember too, Jeff, with remember Pedro was furious he wasn't the MVP.
Yes.
And a few guys left him off the ballot. One was George King, who went on vacation, and one was Lavelle Neal. And just I think a week ago, he brought that up again. Pedro brought it up on TV or something, ripping Lavelle Neal. Looks like God, it's been like over 20 years.
Poor Lavelle.
That's awesome.
Poor Lavelle. That's That was a completely different time for sure. There's not much doubt about that. Hey, Kevin asked you about the Padres and the Diamondbacks. What has to go well? I'm intrigued with the Padres because at the start of the year I said they were my dark horse team, and I like the Padres. I like a lot.
Way to go out on a limb, Jeff.
Well,
seriously.
Yeah, I know. I realize it, but what do you think could be the? Give me the reason they can go all the way and the reason they won't go all the way.
Ooh.
Well, it's a much better team than a year ago. I mean, a year ago, that team, when they're down 1 or 2 runs, they just quit. I thought it was the most entertaining team in baseball history with all that talent. And so they get rid of Soto. Then the Hader leaves, Snell leaves, Lugo Waka. But just a much more well-rounded team. And they know how to win, and they come back. Machado is huge for them. Jackson Merrill, he'll win the Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
He's been phenomenal in center, never had played the position. And that bullpen's the best in baseball, and they can turn those games into a 5-inning affair with that bullpen. So, no, they definitely have a shot. They really do.
Bob, is there any wild card teams in the American League that could turn out to be the Diamondbacks of 2024?
I don't see it. I really don't. I mean, I don't see, KC or Minnesota, doing anything, or even if, Boston slipped in past Minnesota. It's hard to see someone, I guess Seattle would be the one team that could do it just with that pitching. I mean, they could dominate anybody in the postseason with that pitching staff because, the offense isn't going to carry anyway. So Seattle might be that team if they got in.
Bob, we're going to let you run, man. Thanks for doing this. Terrific stuff as always.
Thanks, Bob.
Always good to talk to you. Be well.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, Jeff.
Take care. See you. That was Bob Nightengale. That was our MLB Insider brought to you by Miller Lite. Tastes like Miller time. Yeah, I know Nightingale's got a soft spot for the Padres.
Yeah.
He used to cover the Padres.
Yeah, I don't think, if not now, when would you ever root for the Padres? Like, I mean, it's you had Soto, that didn't work out. Like, you had too many superstars in one room, which I just can't believe that's an issue, but it seemed to be an issue last year. You've corrected that. You got rid of, I guess, the problem. And now, what's the excuse if they don't make a decent run at this thing? Like that's the thing. If not now, when?
I think a lot of it will come down to Tatis Jr.
Like the Dodgers, in my mind, have never been weaker because of the rotation. If the door's not as, it's going to get as wide open as it's ever been.
I agree with Bob completely. I don't think the Dodgers get out of the first round.
I mean, boy.
I don't think they get out of the first round.
I mean,
Kevin, their pitching's awful. It's not good. I shouldn't say awful.
Awful strong.
Yeah.
Jack Flaherty's their best pitcher, which if I'd have told you that.
Yeah. I mean,
their pin's decent.
Yeah, their pitching's not. I shouldn't say it's awful.
It's not awful.
But I don't trust. There's not.
I mean, they got 3 Hall of Famers in a row in their lineup. I mean, where are they at? Step up, don't you know? I mean, Freeman and Betts were non-existent last year.
Yeah, they did.
That can't happen. Ohtani's got to. I said this to you earlier. His season starts in October. I mean, whether he likes to hear it or not, it's a fact. And same with the other 2 that follow him or ones in front of him. Those 3 guys need to carry them where they're going to ultimately end up. Like that
score a lot of teams.
It takes a lot of 3-run homers, and this is sort of why they paid him $1 bazillion just to try and do that. So it'd be intriguing. I would be intrigued too if that was to happen. What would they do? Like, would they blow that coaching staff up? Would they? Well, somebody's taking the blame for it. I mean, they ain't going to do nothing to the lineup because they ain't going to do nothing really to the roster.
I mean, I think what you will see them. I mean, what you'll see them do to the roster is they need some certainty among their pitchers. They need some certainty now. Now you've got the guy pitching next year as well. Ohtani, you've got to think. I don't know how it'll be fun to see how they work him in. I mean, I guess you just bring him in at spring training and you start fresh.
Here's the ball.
And here's the ball.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they need it. It's it's amazing how many. It's like the Leafs with goaltending.
Yeah.
The Leafs spend a lot of money. They've got a great team, and every year it seems like they're trying to win the Stanley Cup with somebody else's backup. And it's kind of the same thing with the Dodgers. They spend all that money. It's a terrific lineup. And it's like they just don't have enough certainty in that starting rotation.
Better World Series. Phillies, Yankees, Dodgers, Yankees.
Oh, Phillies, Yankees. I think.
Phillies, yeah, me too. Think more people watch? Phillies, Yankees.
Okay. Now more people watch.
You got Ohtani, so that's going to draw. It's going to be a big draw. I mean, I'm quietly rooting for the Dodgers to get bumped in the first round. Like, does that make me a bad person? Like, I'm quietly rooting for that.
I'm going to have a redo in that.
I want to see.
I'm going to have a redo in that because of this. If the Dodgers make the World Series, they've probably figured out their pitching because it's going to be hard to get through that league. So if the Dodgers are in the World Series, I think they'll be playing well. Yeah, Dodgers Yankees, I would prefer just to see Ohtani versus Judge.
Because you know it's going to be Phillies Astros, right? You do realize that's what it's going to be. Yeah. Okay. Just it's headed that way. Like the Astros have been playing peekaboo all year. Like it's like they really have. Like you remember us, and nobody's really talking about them. It's now all of a sudden while they 6 up in the West, it's like they flipped like 16 games overnight. It's crazy. So you know it's what's happening.
They're
hopefully it's not like Diamondbacks Astros or some silly thing.
They're almost enough to make me believe that there really is something to that whole we've been there before.
Well, you can't teach experience. Again, it's like the first 2 months of the Blue Jays season. Bo and Vladdy, where you at?
True. We've been giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long here in Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily.
There ain't no way nobody got this question.
Baseball trivia question to 590. Standard message and data rates may apply. Our last question and answer was, this catcher played 8 seasons in the majors, split evenly with 4 seasons.
You wouldn't know his
dude
if you fell on
with the Blue Jays. The answer was Josh Thole.
You would not know this guy. You wouldn't know this answer.
No, I didn't get it.
I wouldn't either.
I've kind of forgotten the
Josh
Thole
you try
era.
to forget that.
It's more I'm trying to forget the R.A. Dickey era.
It was fun because it was odd and you didn't see it forever. And they were trying to invent dudes who could catch it.
All I know about about R.A. Dickey is when he wrote his book, he had a bunch of his books in the clubhouse, and he would not give them to his teammates. He wanted to sell them to them.
I played in a Hokie Smoky Classic. I was a Hokie. He was a Smoky. He threw 98 miles an hour.
Oh, he was.
Until he took that photo, they won some award, the Vols did, and his shoulder, his right shoulder was way higher or way lower than his left one, and some doctor went, hey, I think it was the Rangers, right, who drafted him? Told the Rangers, you may want to check that. And all of a sudden now I got to go home and invent something.
He threw hard in college.
It's 98.
Yeah, he threw hard in
because I faced his 98.
Did you hit him?
Nah, probably. I hit everybody in college. But
today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays and Cardinals at the Rogers Center on Friday, September 13th. Ooh, September 13th.
Where you going to be? Oh, that's tomorrow or something.
Well, Friday. Today is Tuesday, so... I mean, I don't know. I usually lock myself in the closet on September 13th.
Do you really?
I'm not superstitious, but I am superstitious about Friday the 13th.
Huh. All right, how old are you? You're a little old for that, ain't you?
I've seen 64 Friday the 13th.
You're awfully proud of getting that discount from Shoppers.
I was, man. We get old, man. I'll tell you what.
It's the small things in life in Toronto, boy. It is the small things.
My next one is seeing your car insurance go down, and you get the 65 qualify for the 65-year-old rate at Marriott.
It's horrendous.
That's great.
How much is the discount at Shoppers? It's like 20% on Thursday.
If they want, they can buy an ad if they want to do that.
I just think it's funny that's what you brought up when we were walking to the train.
Anyhow, I've got to get this question out because people are.
They're pumped.
All right.
Well, read it. No, I don't get paid the big bucks like you do.
This starter spent 6 seasons with the Blue Jays, but truly flourished in St. Louis, where he compiled a 45-22 record and was named an All-Star as a member of the Cardinals. Again, this starting pitcher spent 6 seasons with the Blue Jays, but truly flourished in St. Louis, where he compiled a 45-22 record. I didn't get it, and was named an All-Star as a member of the Cardinals. Text the answer to 590-590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590. Standard massage.
I don't even have a hint.
Data rates may apply
For that. I know what it is. I'm looking at it right here. I got the same sheet you got.
I had one guess, and
it was bad?
Obvious. Well, yeah. The thing was named an All-Star threw me. It threw me because I knew, I was aware that this guy pitched for the Cardinals. I was not aware that he was an All-Star.
If you were going to give a hint, what would it be?
I don't even know.
I don't either.
Oh, I'll give you the hint.
Do it.
Not Chris Carpenter. That was the first thing I thought of.
That helps zero.
Anyhow, again, you can text the answer to 590 for your shot to win.
You're on
and
your
you
way.
could be going to the Rogers Center on Friday, September 13th to see the Jays and Cardinals. What are you laughing at?
You.
Why?
I just...
Oh, what?
It's that time of the year where it doesn't take much to make me laugh at you.
I'll tell you what.
I mean, you were so proud of it.
I'll tell you what. In a
Discounts.
In a month or so, I'll get to pick my own friends in a month or so. Right?
Delete.
Whenever.
That's what it is on that phone.
Whenever.
Delete.
No, we'll be. I think we will be around through the playoffs, but I don't know what the schedule's going to be. Yeah, we'll be around through the playoffs, but I don't know when.
Boy, I secretly hope the Dodgers get thumped in the first round. Oh, it'll be chaos. Oh, I hope it's going to happen.
You've got to cheer for chaos in the postseason.
Oh, well, yeah, and I for some reason or the other, I want the Phillies Astros. Oh, I seem to hate both of them teams for some reason.
I know what I wanted to ask you about. Did you see the thing with Bryce Harper? Didn't run out, hits a ball, he thinks it's going out, it isn't out.
Yeah.
He doesn't run. He gets to first base, should have been in second.
Yeah.
Goes up to Rob Thompson when he's back in the dugout. Doesn't give him a chance to say anything. And basically, and you can see it online, just says, that was my bad, that was unacceptable. And I like seeing stuff like that. I just like seeing stuff like that from a guy.
I guess.
I don't know. Considering that when Bryce Harper came up, a lot of people thought he's kind of a spoiled kid.
I was in spring training with him.
You know. What?
Spring training. I never will forget that. Hat pulled down over his face. It is so hot you can't breathe.
And he's sleeping. He, of course, is famous for gassing up his car in Clearwater wearing his uniform.
I used to do that.
He wore his uniform and he had shower sandals on. He's gassing up the car.
Everybody does that.
Yeah, because he wasn't taking the team bus.
Nobody takes the team bus. It matters.
Come on, you're still wearing your jersey?
Yeah. Did you wear I don't think he was wearing his spring training jersey.
Yeah, well,
that's not the same as untucked.
You're one of those guys. You're one of those guys that wore your hat into the bars on the
backwards.
Road.
Kangaroo court. I don't care. Whatever. Here's my $100. I'm wearing it. What you gonna do about it?
I get the impression you were probably a regular in Kangaroo court.
I was the leader though. I was hammering that thing.
Now the other,
when in doubt, find them.
The other spring training incident that I remember, Stephen Brunt and I were doing, I don't know, whatever edition of the Jeff Blair show or whatever the hell it was called years ago.
You've had many.
We were doing our show from spring training.
Best for last.
We were doing our show from spring training, and we're getting out of our car. And we're walking up to the press box in Dunedin to do the show. And there's this, I don't know what type of car it was, this very expensive sports car in the players' parking lot. And I peek in, and Chris Archer is sleeping in the car at 7 in the morning.
Oh, it's tremendous. Like them dudes
sound asleep in the car.
Them dudes that have no worries in spring training. Me, I was up at 4:30 running laps, making sure all coaches were seeing me out there running.
I just remember that.
Them dudes are sleeping on the bench.
Chris Archer
could care less.
Chris Archer sleeping in his car. At least he got there early. He was there really early. And he was pitching
other than the last couple of years, have you ever seen a bubble guy throw them interviews that they give?
Yeah.
You ever seen bubble guys up until the last couple of years? Because, now it doesn't matter. Kids are real comfortable.
Oh, yes.
That was never that way. When you were covering baseball hot and heavy, you ever see a bubble guy throwing seed, somebody that was on the bubble of making the team or getting released? Yours truly. Ever throw seeds on somebody?
No.
Or never.
No.
You were trying to be so under the radar and just, man.
No,
You never saw that. Now, I think you see in De Los Santos, buckets of gum. It's he's carrying one of the buckets out there with Vladdy. It's huh?
He wants to be part of the team.
What? And their numbers?
It's not like the old days, Kevin Barker. It's not
give me
like
6.
the old days.
Nobody wears. It's you got to earn a small number.
Let's okay. We've reminisced enough.
I know it's beautiful.
We've reminisced enough. Dan Shulman is our Blue Jays play-by-play voice on Sportsnet. He'll join us next from the ballpark. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, we're about an hour and a half away from first pitch at the Rogers Center as David Peterson taking the hill for the Mets. Chris Bassett for the Blue Jays. The Jays lineup is as follows. Springer, Varsho, Guerrero, Kirk. Guerrero's at first. Clement at third. Spencer Horwitz is the DH. Davis Schneider at second base. Leo Jimenez at shortstop. Joey Loperfido in left field. Davis Schneider at second base against the lefty. John Schneider was asked earlier today about Davis Schneider, and understatement of the year perhaps, says that he is grinding. But he also says that something, I'll just take him at his word. They like the work that Davis Schneider is putting in. I guess it's Davis Schneider is adhering to the process, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, baseball at that level is performance-driven first. If it's about performance, then...
Well, let's bring in Dan Shulman, our Blue Jays play-by-play voice on Sportsnet. He is at the Rogers Center.
There he is.
There he is. How you doing, Dan?
I'm technologically challenged, and I'm thinning a little bit on top, but other than that, I'm doing great.
You look wonderful.
You look wonderful.
You do.
You absolutely look wonderful. So Kevin and I started out the show basically by spending 20 minutes going through the Jays' issues with the bullpen, which, are obvious statistically and in terms of the eye test. But I wanted to ask you this. There's this idea that, if a team isn't contending, kind of on the list of things you worry about as the season goes on, you just don't worry about the bullpen. And I remember Felipe Alou one time talking about how, in his opinion, when you have a team full of young players or guys who don't have a lot of experience and they're trying to find their footing, he said nothing is more gut-wrenching for a group of young players than to lose a game in the ninth inning, after you've grinded against a really good team. Is this something I don't know how to ask you if John Schneider's aware of this, but you know what I'm saying? Is this something that should be a concern that you've got a bunch of guys like Will Wagner and Spencer Horwitz and Leo Jimenez who are, pretty much doing the best they can. They're out there grinding, and then they lose a game to a good team on a pass ball and a wild pitch.
Uh-oh. Frozen. Oh.
Philadelphia last week. There we're back. So,
Nice.
It happened. It happened in Atlanta Sunday too. It really happened against Philadelphia last week. Remember the game? They scored 6 in the first and they lost 10-9. But it's one of those things. Not that it's a luxury, but it is what it is. It's one of those things right now. These are the guys they have, and they traded Jimmy Garcia. They traded Nate Pearson. They traded Trevor Richards. And listen, the bullpen wasn't great earlier on in the year, right? Tim Mesa didn't have a good year. Jordan Romano got hurt. So it definitely needs to be addressed in the offseason on multiple levels. Of the 9 guys who are here now, I'd be surprised if more than 4 or 5 of them were on the opening day roster next year, but you never know. But they don't really have any other options right now. But I agree with you. It can be a very deflating thing. The only thing I would say is because these young guys are young, and young guys tend to be energetic and optimistic and enthusiastic when they roll into Dunedin February the 12th or whenever it is next year. I think it'll all be, in the distant rear view mirror, and hopefully it'll be a stronger group with a lot of depth and a lot of options, and hopefully it can be a better part of the team than it was this year, because to me it's right up there with the lack of offense they had the first 4 months of the season in terms of why this team hasn't had the kind of year they wanted to have.
Dan, in your mind, is the closer for 2025 in the organization right now?
I would guess yes. And I would guess his name is Jordan Romano. So, I know there's been some talk about, hey, nobody's going to know how he feels. And I think he's making 7 3/4 this year. So you get a little bump in arbitration, even though, he had an injury plagued year. My guess is I don't think they're going to non-tender him. my guess is he's back and he's the closer. And I would guess it's Romano and Swanson and Green. I'm not ordering them. I'm just naming them. Certainly, Genesis Cabrera has done enough to be a big part of the group. But I think there needs to be another dude at the end of the pen, a guy who could close if you need him, but can also, be a seventh, eighth inning guy if you don't. But if if I had to bet my bet some money on it, I would bet that Jordan Romano is on the team next year, and that, assuming he's healthy, he's the closer at the beginning of the year.
Dan, do you have any idea why they think this is the best plan for Davis Schneider?
Why they think this is the best plan? You mean him
being in the big leagues? I mean, Dan, I don't want to, the numbers. I mean, I think he's like 1 for his last 32. He's like 7 for his last 82. Yeah. Like he's getting in that non-competitive at bat part.
Yeah. So John Schneider was asked about Davis Schneider before the game, about what the messaging has been to him as he has struggled through this. And John Schneider said it's been 95% positive reinforcement. He did say something like, come on, man, it's time to get it going. But he said 95% of it has been positive reinforcement. I think part of it, Kevin, is that they've seen him be really good, so they know it's in there. Now, obviously, the league has made adjustments, but they've seen him be really good. I think part of it is everybody roots for him like crazy. I really believe that. I know they root for him like crazy, and I believe that's a part of all this, is that they're just hoping he can dig himself out. Everybody knows about him and Ernie and Spencer and the Three Amigos and how popular they are in the vibes and all that. And I think they're just hoping he can get out of this. The other thing is, I don't know who would be next. Like if they, were to have sent him down a couple of weeks ago, who else is there that they would have called up? One thing, and Buck and I were talking about it a little bit earlier, not specifically about Davis, but if Aurelvis Martinez doesn't get suspended, he's here, right? He's here over the last couple of months. And a few guys aren't getting as much playing time as they would have gotten had Aurelvis Martinez been here. And so, that might have been the difference too. But if I had to pick one thing, Kevin, it's that they've seen him do it before. And I think they want to give him every chance they can give him to find it again before the end of the season, because I think they're pulling for him like crazy.
Yeah.
After seeing the Braves, and yes, it's just been one game against the Mets, but I know that obviously you watch games, you follow baseball. Who do you think emerges out of this this two-team race for that final National League wildcard spot? What does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me the Braves are in trouble because they can't hit.
Yeah, they've just stopped, haven't they?
To be fair, we said it 100 times over the weekend in Atlanta. You take Ronald Acuna and Austin Riley and Ozzie Albies off a team, and you've got excuses for not being as good an offensive team as people think you should be. But I think certainly the Mets are hotter right now. The other thing is Arizona's not playing great, and San Diego and Arizona haven't left Atlanta and New York behind. So 3 of those 4 are going to make it. But the other thing I was thinking about, and I know it's a very tough time for the Blue Jays, and they've lost some ugly games. But and I don't want this to sound like coulda, woulda, shoulda, but they're hanging in there with playoff contenders right now. Like they're not the White Sox. They're not getting blown out 12-1.
Yeah, they're not getting boat raced.
Right, they're not getting boat raced. They're not. Before people start having at me, they're nowhere close to where they need to be. But they're competitive, and the young. Listen, they're making mistakes. Hopefully, they're learning from those mistakes. They don't repeat them. They're all cleaned up by the time next year arrives. This is invaluable experience for this young group. But I think the effort is there. I think they're learning a lot on the fly at the major league level about situational baseball and pressure and all of those things. So, but a lot of these teams that are going to, sneak into the playoffs at 86 or 87 games, they're not great. There's not that big of a gap between a 78-win team and an 87-win team. In my mind, it's just the Blue Jays got to figure out how to get there and hopefully beyond that next year. But I do think there's some good experience being had here, and hopefully it pays dividends next season.
Of the new Jays, who in your mind has the best chance to make the team next year?
Of the new Jays, is Spencer Horwitz a new Jay?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So all of this is assuming the guy isn't traded, right? So assuming they're not traded, because somebody's getting traded, but assuming they're not traded, Spencer Horwitz and Ernie Clement are on the team in my mind.
Yeah.
I also think Will Wagner has I think he's on the inside lane right now. I think he's doing very well. I think they like what he brings to the team. I think they like the quality of his at-bats, the simplicity of his swing. I think they think he's a fine second baseman, that he's good enough out at second base. So, that leaves like Schneider and Lucas and Loperfido and Jimenez. And I think any of them could, and I think all of them could make a case for it if they play well. But I think I would give Horwitz, Clement, and Wagner probably the inside track on that. But again, of those 7 guys that I just named, no way are all 7 in the organization come February 12th. No way at all.
Nope.
Yeah, no, I'm with you completely on that. I am intrigued by Leo Jimenez because he's young, and I'm sure other teams they're looking at him the same way. But given there's at least a chance that the Blue Jays, the shortstop for 2026, there may be a change in that position. I'd really like to see Leo Jimenez stay in the organization, go down to AAA and just play, because I haven't done a deep analytical dive into him, but boy, he certainly doesn't appear to me as if he's overwhelmed by what's happening.
He is not overwhelmed. He's a cool cat. I will tell you that. And I agree with that. If we assume that Bo Bichette is on the team next year, it's kind of hard to envision Ernie Clement and Leo Jimenez both being on the team, because the positions are similar, both right-handed bats, et cetera, et cetera. But you're right there, and this would be a good problem to have. Like, there might be a couple of guys who are here for 2 months or more this year who might go back to Buffalo next year. And that's when you're heading in the right direction, when you've got guys pushing from AAA who you'd like to have up, but you don't have a spot for them. But I agree with you, and given what you said about 2026, it would be nice to have him around, because I think he's got a future. He's intriguing. He's got a little more pop than I thought he did. Certainly he can make the plays defensively. I'd like to see Josh Kasevich, and we won't see him until maybe next spring, obviously, but he got pushed up to AAA when all of these new Jays came up to the big leagues. But I'm with you. I like Leo a lot, and I think he's got a chance. You can have a Leo Jimenez on a really good team. There are lots of Leo Jimenez's playing every day on good teams. I don't know that he's ever going to hit 25 homers or drive in 80 runs, but you make all the plays at short and you hold your own at the plate. And if you surround that guy with enough offense around him, that can be a really nice piece on a very good team.
Dan, baseball is all about ranking, and I was thinking about this when I was on the train and in my car coming to work. Out of the 3 starters that are here, Bassett, Barrios, and Gausman, who's my number 1 starter going into next season? And I don't know if I have the answer, and that's the question I need you to answer.
So my answer to this always is not this specific question, but the opening to who's the number 1, who's the number 3, who's the number 5. It sorts itself out so early. Last year, 2023, Alek Manoah was the opening day starter for the Toronto Blue Jays, right? Yeah. And it could have been Gausman, obviously, based on the year that Gausman had in 22. If you're forcing me to pick one right now, I think I would pick Barrios. I think he's had the best year of the 3, but I think any of the 3 could be the guy. And again, the results dictate that over the course of the season. So, Kevin Gausman had the slow start with the shoulder fatigue and had to ramp up. And we've certainly seen glimpses of Gausman be, what he's been the last couple of years, but it's been a grind for him. And he would admit that. He would freely admit that. And it's been a bit of a grind for Bassett here in the second half, too. I think in terms of, consistently, getting as close to his peak as possible, I think Jose Barrios would be the one I would choose.
Dan, biggest storyline, is it the 32 starts at the end of the season for Barrios, or is it the 2 more homers, 6 more RBIs for Vladdy to make 30 and 100? Bigger storyline.
Well, Barrios is an automatic at 32, so it's an overlooked storyline. This will be, I think, the 6th year that he has made 32 starts. He didn't in 2020 because it was the COVID year, and he didn't, whatever it was, 2017, because he started the year in the minors. So it's a great story, but I think we take it for granted, which we shouldn't. And I try to mention almost every 5 days, he's never missed a start. He's never been on the IL, but then I'm afraid he'll take a comebacker off the knee, and then I'm the jinx. So I'm afraid to get out there on that, too much, but I think Vladdy 30 and 100 would be great. I assume he's going to get there. Still 17 more games to go. But, honestly, if you said to me, what's the biggest story for this team the rest of the way, it's the kids. I just want to see as much of the kids as I can see. Can Loperfido get on a run and get hot with extra base hits and run the bases and run around in the outfield and impress some people? Can Lucas keep delivering? Can Wagner keep his average up there where it is between now and the end of the season, et cetera, et cetera? To me, this is it's been one, as I said last time I was on with you guys, it's been one big fact-finding mission for this group for about a month and a half.
Yep.
Having said that, I'm hoping you've found out the answer to this for me. I know that Buck has talked about Nathan Lucas. My friend, Mr. Barker here, talks about, you said the first, when he was called up in the first weekend he was here, he said, he looks like he kind of knows what he's doing up at the plate.
Yeah.
Dan, why is it taking so long for him to, now I know he's had chances here, but this guy's been in the organization for a while now.
Yeah. So with Tampa Bay before, I think his first year with the Blue Jays organization was 22, if I'm not mistaken. It's not like he was drafted by the Blue Jays. No. Like he was with Cleveland and then Tampa Bay. I think by the time they got him, he was 27, 28. And, maybe the prospect shine had come off him. And they brought in Varsho and they brought in Kiermaier, left-hand hitting outfielders, and there just wasn't a spot for him. But, you guys have heard Buck and I talk about it. We both think he's a major league player. We think he was a major league player 2 years ago. It's just the way the roster was constructed worked against him. And I would love to see him on the team next year. And I'm afraid because he's 30, not 24 or 26, he's a 40-man roster casualty in the winter. And we turn around and next year he's getting 400 bats for the Colorado Rockies or the Seattle Mariners or something like that.
Or he's winning a batting title with the Rays.
Or he's winning a batting title with the Rays, right. I'd love to see him here. But if he's not with the Toronto Blue Jays, I'd rather see him on another major league team than with the Buffalo Bisons because he has earned the right to be a major league player. And I'm not saying he's necessarily a 600 at bat guy, but could you have him as your fourth outfielder? Absolutely. And he can be the strong side of the platoon, or then somebody goes on the IL and you got to play him every day for 2-3 weeks. And you look up at the end of the year and he's just a good, solid player. Nothing maybe jumps off the charts, but there are no weaknesses that jump off the charts either. And he's a good guy. He's a 30-year-old. He's a dad. He's been in the minor leagues a long, long time. And I hope he's on the major league roster for this team next year. And again, if not, I hope he's on somebody else's major league roster.
Good stuff as always, Dan. We appreciate your time. Thanks so much for doing
buddy.
this.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. See you
Have
soon.
a great call. Absolutely. That's Dan Shulman, Blue Jays play-by-play voice on Sportsnet. And I know Buck has been the two people. And I wonder, I think maybe they might have seen him at the same time because I know that Buck and Ben Wagner they both lived in Dunedin and they used to spend, they both mentioned Nathan Lucas in 2022 in spring training when you asked, did anybody you've seen that kind of impressed you? Both of them have mentioned that. Buck has talked about him a lot. I know you've talked about it. It just, there's almost an Ernie Clement element to him, isn't there? And then it just looks kind of simple.
Yeah, I think it's the Horowitz, Clement, and who's the third guy? That I think is what you have to.
And
be
you know
quick
that
about.
Loperfido is going to get every chance to make the team because you traded for him.
Yeah, I would think
and
so.
And he's younger and he's got a little more speed and
he's got a little bit more power too. I think. Yeah. I don't know how to feel about that. Again, it's the sort of the cutthroat part of the business where, you've waited a little bit too long. You caught him up just because he's basically earned it. Your team's out of it. You got rid of a roster spot. That's what we'd heard, right? Is how do you make room for him? How do you get rid of a guy out of a roster spot to make room for him? Like that's a thing, right? They have to work through that. I don't think it should be that way. I think it's about the best guy. Whichever guy helps your team win a baseball game,
his numbers have been consistent.
That's who you bring up. But it's obvious they don't like him as much as a lot of people like him, or he'd be in the big league. So. Yeah, it's just that it's going to be intriguing to see because you can't bring them all, and all of them's not going to help your team win a baseball game. So,
no, I think that the list of players Dan gave you, I think they're telling us something by the fact that Spencer Horowitz isn't playing second base anymore.
Yeah, where's he playing? Like, that's another thing, right? I know he'd be good coming off the bench and that kind of thing, but you got to get him at bats. Yeah. He's got a longer swing, right? He works on that, keeping his hands close. The only way you do that is to swing it. And, if they bring in a couple of thumpers, where's he playing? So, they got some decisions to make.
And it is.
But they're left-handed and they got options, which they haven't had in a while.
They haven't had in a while.
And these dudes can hit a fastball. Like, I think that's the one thing, right? They haven't had that in a while either. So,
well, we talked about that list of if you look at the Blue Jays players and average against fastball.
Horowitz is right up there.
Horowitz is right up there. Ernie Clement's right up there.
Leo Jimenez is one of the guys up there too. So it's, youth comes with hitting velocity. That's the one thing. And them being left-handed helps them laying off a breaking ball to get in fastball counts, which gives you a chance to have that educated guessing thing going on. So, yeah, again, it's just they got to be quicker with their evaluations. Yes or no? Don't be on the fence. Don't let it fester. Like, you got to make up your mind. For me, it's about winning. They are at that stage now where it's just you can't be undecided. You can't, is it? Ain't he? Coach will figure it out. They're past that.
Yeah, I think
you either know or you don't.
I think the
predictability
is important.
Costs money.
Also, I think you need to put the brakes on the whole process thing a little bit. You can't gradually. You can't gradually work your way. I don't think into a contending.
I mean, I know it's hard to hear, but with the payroll they got, Jeff, they're going to finish like 16 out of first. I mean, that's the reality. You just say that out loud, you better be quick and you better hit a homer with the evaluations and who you're handing the money out to from here on out.
The other thing, too, is let's face it. They've been in evaluation mode now for 2 months. Like, they should have an idea.
We know what they are. Like,
yeah.
I mean, don't forget,
we know what they are. We know what they are.
We know what they need. We've seen them play.
We know what they are. We know what they need.
Yeah. So we'll see if they go.
I'm of the impression that you should be able to repair your bullpen. I've seen so many other teams.
You can use whoever you want to use in the 6th and 7th.
Yeah, so many other teams have done it, though, on the fly too. And I've seen these guys do it. So, and I think maybe, Dan's point about Jordan Romano, there's so much to do. There's so much to do that I think that gives Jordan Romano a little bit of an edge here in terms of staying on the roster and being tendered. I know Shai mentioned that you have to have a discussion about the non-tender amount because he's going to make $7 million next year.
I mean, to be fair, he was like 8 out of 9 before he got injured with the saves. Like, that's a big deal, right? I mean, I just mentioned the 20 blown, the 20 blown saves. You cut that in half, they're above 500.
Well,
let's be real about this thing. Like, and you were the first one to say, what the heck's taking you guys so long? I mean, are you punting or not? Like,
oh well.
Yeah, I mean,
if only it was as easy as it sounds on radio or on TV. Or
maybe it is easy.
Could be. That's it for us. We'll be doing Blue Jays talk tonight following the game. We will be back tomorrow afternoon following the Jays game. It's a 3:07 first pitch. Have yourself a great day and enjoy the baseball. Don't throw that at me. Last time you almost hit me in the eye.